SLAV at Trustworthy SLAV.
COH at Incognito.
CRK at black.com build.
This is the Fed Post.
It sucked last time that SLAV, his audio got cut off. The internet got cut off in the middle of that one, right?
Yeah, I was just pissed. It was vaporized.
Freddy Krueger got him.
Damn, so, these movies, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, so it sounded like, I mean, you know, no call out or anything. It sounded like you and COH watched them like this morning, right?
Yeah.
I watched both of them. Right
when I finished
the first one, I saw COH tweet about the first one, so it was like neck and neck.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Super fresh then. I watched two, I think yesterday.
And you'd seen it years ago.
I just finished rewatching two like minutes ago, but I've seen it a million times.
Oh hell yeah!
Nice.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's the thing is like I've seen all the Friday the 13th. Also, I've seen all the Elm Street movies when I was like a kid, and I can't even say it really counts because I just recall it all being like watching it on like AMC network or something.
Oh yeah.
And so it was like basically like watching it completely fresh for the first time. Fucking banger. Absolute banger.
I had never seen them before. I saw like the new remake when it came out because I was like a kid when that happened. And so I was like, oh, cool. But I never saw like the old ones until just like today. I really liked the first one.
All the Elm Streets are a lot of fun. I recently filled in the gaps on the entries of the Halloween franchise that I hadn't seen, and
oh, nice.
That is the most mismanaged, bizarre franchise. The number of like reboots where there's like a slight difference, or they ignore, you know, the third entry or ignore the second entry or something. It just makes no sense. Like H2O ignores everything after the second one, and then the recent one that's just called Halloween ignores everything after the first one. It's just disaster.
Well, and didn't Rob Zombie do a Halloween movie?
Yeah, he did two of them. Yeah.
The first one is one of the most unpleasant movie experiences I've ever had in my life. It felt totally like Mercury retrograde as a movie, just totally unredeemable. But it was interesting because I was like offended by it like a parent. And it had nothing to do with it being like libtarded or woke or anything like that, because it has tons of like nudity and everything. It's just like something about it is so offensive. But the second one is a little cuter. The second one is a little more charming than the first. Just relentless ugliness.
I recall the first one, it's like, you know, the first place everyone thought of to go for Halloween. There's like a lot of young Michael Myers in it, right? It's like him as a kid in it, right?
Yeah,
and
a repulsive blonde, long-haired, androgynous-looking child.
Right, right. Yeah, not good. I recall really like, because Halloween 2 is Season of the Witch, right? That's the
Halloween 3 is Season of the Witch.
Okay.
Halloween 2, the Jamie Lee Curtis one, is the next night in the hospital. It's really good.
Yeah, I think it's the same night, but it's a continuation of the same, like the first one.
Is that the one where he like Michael Myers like gets swept down the river in the end or something? Yeah. And don't they kind of end it on sort of a like they actually put some kind of like magic in it? They imply that Michael Myers is cursed or something.
There's some dude walking around in like this like black suit and hat, and he like you only see like his feet in the second one, and then he pops back up in like maybe that's the fourth one actually.
The fourth, fifth, and sixth ones are the ones with the cult.
Yeah. Okay. And Paul Rudd's in the fifth one.
The sixth one.
The sixth one. Yeah. One of those. Shit.
See, we were talking about with Halloween. It's impossible to even talk about them.
Yeah.
And they all have the same title. It's just like 10 movies named Halloween. But the fourth and fifth one is where they introduce the cult thing, and then they show it in the sixth one, which I like the sixth one quite a bit. It's in this like mean-spirited period of horror movies where they were just like nowhere before everything became like self-referential and ironic after Scream, which I like Scream, but I can't abide the irony stuff. So the sixth one is just really ugly. It's like, who wants to see Michael Myers chasing after like a baby?
Yeah.
And the Rob Zombie first Halloween has a lot of things like just scenarios that no one wants to see, such as like Dee Wallace, the mother from E.T., getting her neck snapped. The cute little girl from the fourth and fifth movies. She's grown up and she's just like topless for like 5 minutes getting killed. And, you know, normally I'd be in favor of that, but it's just in service of such a bad movie.
It's just trying to be as ugly as possible.
That's the Rob Zombie stick.
I've never seen these original.
And I think Rob Zombie is probably like really low IQ and retarded, but like nice. He seems like someone that's like well liked in Hollywood and seems like pretty nice, but it's really a vision of like low IQ kind of sex offender registry, like trash people.
Well, it's funny. Horror. It's funny because I feel like Rob Zombie comes from like it comes from kind of like a vibe that I'm not used to insulting anymore, because I don't get this. It almost, to make fun of Rob Zombie almost feels like
cliche.
Talking shit it's like Bush era shit talking or something, right? Like he doesn't have that like really sanitized lib thing going on. Like it's the stupid cliche that like Instagram girls talk about of like guys named Kyle or something like that type of thing. Like Rob Zombie made Michael Myers look like a little kid at like a state fair. And it's ICP core kind of thing.
And on the one hand, seeing where we are now culturally, I kind of miss the feeling of like trashy people who owned Rob Zombie DVDs and like
or like a Cookie Monster sweatpants.
Oh my god!
Cookie Monster sweatpants, eternally pregnant white trash girls at the ER. The strip mall ER center. Like I'm nostalgic for that. Another thing that evokes that era is and grosses me out is like Xbox, the original Xbox, which
hamburger controller.
As a PlayStation loyalist, I was always kind of like found the Xbox distasteful, just like the look of it. And there was that game Manhunt where you like murder people and film it, and that reminds me of Rob Zombie era very much, and I'm kind of like fond of that. However, Rob Zombie occupies this unique place right now because he's both like quite bad, and everyone knows this, but he's also really overrated. Like people give him a lot of credit just because they kind of like enjoy the idea of they're just like, oh, they just kind of think it's cute that Rob Zombie has been making these movies, you know?
I feel like there's something condescending to it. Also, I always kind of, because he kind of has like a multimedia brand going on, so I get almost kind of like a I don't know if he's from the Midwest, but like a Midwesterner Robert Rodriguez thing going on from him, where you're just like, you kind of make trashy movies, but you kind of have like an iron in every fire.
Right. Robert Rodriguez is kind of charmingly retarded in the same way.
100%.
That at the time I wasn't that into in the 90s and 2000s, but in hindsight, it seems a little more charming.
Oh my God, Robert Rodriguez did Spy Kids. I just Googled him because I didn't know who this was.
He recorded the sound for that in the high school I went to.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Man, Spy Kids 2 gave me my first nightmare ever. I watched it and like the parents got kidnapped and I was like, holy shit, what if my parents get kidnapped, bro? And then I had a nightmare where my parents got kidnapped and I had to like save them. And then I was like, I gotta prepare for this, man.
No, that's actually just the plot of Spy Kids 3.
God damn it!
Straight up would never watch anything called Spy Kids. So even when people were talking about that, it's like, nope, no, I'm not watching this. But I will say, Robert Rodriguez is fine as hell. He used to stay at the hotel I worked at a lot of the time, and he's like 6'5" and always dressed like Mexican cowboy. And
I was assumed he would be short.
Damn lucky. No, he's huge.
He rocks the black hat, so you know he's a bad boy.
It's been years since I've seen it, but I remember Dusk Till Dawn just like absolutely slapping. I liked that quite a bit.
I only saw it recently for the first time. Actually, it was quite good.
Yeah, like Tarantino and like a kind of. I mean, he doesn't die that early in the movie. Well, I guess spoilers for a really old movie. He's solid in it.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Yeah, Dusk Till Dawn. Okay, all right. I wanted to get to my first question about Elm Street specifically because this is something that occurred to me. I watched this with my girlfriend, and we're looking at. I want some answers. I'm going to grill Jack right now.
Answer for the gays, Jack.
Speaking for the community. No, not gay. Well, not gay related at all. Actually, I need a preface for what this question is. So I'm looking at the description on Amazon and they say they okay, right. If you read the description of the first movie on Amazon, probably the second, they say Freddy Krueger, who was like a neighborhood pedophile, right?
What?
They say that in the description for the first movie, which, first of all, is, I feel like, a surprise.
Yeah,
like,
that's a spoiler. Speak of spoiling alert.
You know, spoiler warning. Come on, right? Yeah, no, but it's just interesting because I think about kind of like, you know, Twitter hot takes a little bit, and I read that, and it's like, is it ever even actually mentioned that he's a pedophile
in the
movie?
Yeah, well, he's completely a pedophile child killer in the first movie. Mm-hmm. But as it became a franchise and more kind of like general audience, family friendly, they do away with that. But yeah, he's absolutely a pedophile in the first movie.
Wait, do they mention it explicitly?
When Ronnie Blakely is telling her the story of Freddy Krueger, how he was a neighborhood child molester, child murderer, and so they all gathered together to kill him.
Oh, yeah, y'all are getting hung up on semantics. Y'all are hearing
Freddy Krueger is absolutely a pedophile. That's why it's really funny that you know, later in the franchise you have like action figures and like children's toys and all this stuff.
Oh, God.
Child murdering pedophile. And the pedophile stuff works perfectly in agreement with the second movie.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Homosexuality is Freddy is this manifestation of forbidden sexuality and forbidden desires. And homosexuality, of course, has always been historically negatively linked with pedophilia. So it works perfectly there.
Yeah, I remember in the first movie, I was watching it and I was looking at the mom. I was like, this bitch, dude, like, what the fuck is her deal? And then she's like, come down into the basement and let me tell you. And I'm like, maybe they're going to kill this girl. And then the mom's like, oh, actually, like, yeah, this dude's a pedophile and we all killed him. And I was like, yo, fuck yeah, I like the mom now.
Ronnie Blakely is so badass. She's like one of my favorite weird 70s actresses. Robert Altman's Nashville. She is the star of that movie and she's amazing. She like sang with Bob Dylan and like Leonard Cohen, and she shows up on some Leonard Cohen albums. I went to one of those embarrassing horror convention things, which are fun when you go to them a couple of times, but it's also tremendously uncomfortable because you feel very sad for the people who have to sit at these tables while these fucking 300-pound neckbeards and black shirts come up to them and hand them cash for headshots and stuff. Right. So I went up to Ronnie Blakely, and she's like 75 years old, and she's like kind of hobbling around, and I was like, I loved you so much in Nashville. And she just like stared blankly at me and was like, that's wonderful. It'll be $20. Which one do you want? And just like pointed at the headshots, and she had a Nashville one. Because she was that was the Nightmare on Elm Street reunion. So they were all there.
Right. So she's like, what the fuck are you talking to me about Nashville about?
Yes. I'm sure none of these, I'm sure she was just completely out of it. But the juxtaposition of some of the like glamorous European people that go to those things, like the year before, it was the Suspiria anniversary. So all the Suspiria people were there. It was these like thin, beautiful Italian women that were probably like 65 years old, but like stunning, obviously not American, perfect. And they just looked like perfect high fashion witches sitting at this table, and then you just see the neckbeards lumbering along in front of them. Like, what must these people think of America? Their vision of America is just going to these horror conventions where freaks come up and talk to them about trash that they don't even remember making.
Neckbeards and their like morbidly obese rockabilly girlfriends,
polyamorous girlfriends. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen any of these movies, honestly. Like, it was all, I don't have like childhood memories of these movies. All I remember initially was like Freddy versus Krueger, Freddy versus Jason.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like all those, like I was in,
the peak of the franchise.
Yeah, it was all these like, yeah, aren't there like 13 like versions of all these movies, like Halloween 13 and Elm Street 13? Like it just seemed like I was catching it at the very, very end. So I have.
And the only memorable thing about Freddy versus Jason is the faggot line. I'm not scared of a faggot in a Christmas sweater, which they of course try to like paper over now. But that's literally the only good thing about that movie, and it's what everyone talked about at the time. And it's brilliant. The idea of like calling Freddy Krueger a faggot, like in the movie. It's really fucking funny.
There's like some textual content to that.
Some undertones. But yeah, I mean, usually I don't know. Usually I don't really like horror. I have like a prejudice against horror and like comedy or romantic films. For some reason,
you're like, yeah, I hate all film.
Well, no, I don't know. Those are the genres that are easily the most like turned into some popcorn shit, obviously. So like, you know, I usually have like, I've seen so many bad ones that I just sort of like, I thought I wasn't going to like it. But the first one was that shit was really good. I was surprised how much I liked. I was watching with my girl too in the morning, and it's like, I was surprised. Like, yeah, the like the prop work and all that stuff, the effects and like the blood, like upside down room thing, like that, all that shit was really fucking. That was tight. And the
industrial sets were pretty cool too.
Yeah.
I think the upside down room is probably the highlight.
Yeah, that was amazing. I was shocked. I was like, damn. But the second one, I just like, I'm watching it and I'm just like, I'm thinking of what you guys said in the group chat. I'm like, yo, this shit is making me uncomfortable. Like, why is this so fucking gay? I'm like, yo.
See, this is refreshing because I as soon as I said I wanted to do this, I was like, oh God, what else is there to say about it? Because this has been extremely popular for the last 10 years since it was like rediscovered as how deliberately gay it is.
You got like a cult following later, right? Like
and when I got into it when I was like 14 or 15 and about like 2002, people still just absolutely hated it, and it was just like a black sheep of the franchise, and they saw everything gay about it as being some sort of accident. How
do you that scene with the coach? Like, in what way is any of that accidental?
Honestly, that's the moment where I was like, "Yo, I got to turn this off." Like, I told my girlfriend, like, "I need a break." When his like clothes got ripped off and his ass is there.
Dude, for me, it was before that. I need a break. He's like laying on the ground, writhing around, like thousands of balls are being launched at him. You're like, "Oh God, something's about to happen here."
So when the Meryl Streep friend opens the closet and there's that game that just says probe.
Bro, I saw that shit. I wrote a note about that. I was like, I'm gonna bring that up.
Every detail, it's just so blatant that when I watched this and it was still considered bad, I just couldn't believe that this artifact existed. And that was simultaneous to when I was really into William Friedkin's Cruising, which is also really popular now, and wasn't then. The Al Pacino going undercover in the gay leather world to find a serial killer movie, which was from around this time as well. So there's a lot of like crossover there, but the history of how they've dealt with the negativity around this movie is really complicated because they deliberately cast this guy, Mark Patton, because of how obviously gay he was. And
yeah, he was closeted during the filming, right? That's what I read, that he was closeted.
He was, but he was associated with Robert Altman's Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, which is a great movie with Karen Black and Sandy Dennis and Cher. And he plays the twist in that is that the Karen Black character is a transsexual, and he plays the pre-op version of her in the flashbacks.
Oh shit!
So he was explicitly associated with like gay cinema.
He was also very fruity.
Yeah, he was very fruity, and he was also in the mid '80s dating another closeted actor who was on Dallas. But as they do with everything now, this has been talked to death, and they made a really embarrassing documentary specifically about this movie, where Mark Patton is very unlikable, and very bitter, and very annoying. And they try to like organize this moment where he's confronting the writer, David Chaskin, who's like this big, fat, like Hollywood Jewish guy. And at the time, David Chaskin kind of like blamed the criticism and hatred of the film on Mark Patton. But this is like, it's just such a limp moment because this like really narcissistic, like self-obsessed gay guy who has like absolved himself of all like blame for like anything he's ever done in his life wants this big redemptive confrontation, and he just looks worse in the movie. It's depressing. But I like that you guys just saw this fresh and didn't know anything about it and just thought, wow, that shit's really gay.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's 'cause in the chat, like I just thought like from what you guys were saying that there were like undertones, like it was undertones. These are overtones, bro. Yeah, I was like, yo, it made me gay after.
That's the meat of the film. That's like really all that's in the fucking film, dude.
Right from the start. I mean, when they get into that sweaty fight and pulling each other's shorts off, like, dude, nice ass.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like every high school bully would do, you pants a guy and then you tackle him onto the ground and strap him.
We've all been there.
Just guys being dudes. I mean, okay, I'll say I mean, okay, the second movie is outside of the gay stuff. The second movie is a little bit weird for some specific things, like the fact that the main character just like, I mean, he is present, but not really for the final act of the movie, right? Like that's an interesting, weirder thing, right? And so like in that, things like that, like I think like the first movie has a lot more of kind of a typical structure and things like that. I enjoyed the second movie a little bit more, just even outside of like the memeing of, I don't even want to say memeing because this came out before I would even refer to it that way, but like, you know, the gay funny stuff, right? Like because they doubled down on, you know, you're watching the first movie and it's like, man, like this is really cool because with the dream stuff, it gives this opportunity to like do a lot of cool practical effects. That's like what you were just talking about, upside down room and like when she's running up the stairs and like her feet are sinking in the first movie, right? And like the second movie fucking doubles down on that so severely to the point where like the first scene has the school bus teetering.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
Like it's just insane. And I
still liked it. I still like the second movie. I like, but the second half.
Yeah. Well, and like, and specifically, like when the girlfriend, I can't even remember her name. The girlfriend in the end, like, shows up to that, like, it's the factory where Krueger got burned, right? And like, there's just like a couple Rottweilers with baby faces.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck?
I love those.
No, it's insane. And like, yeah, I'm just watching it and like my girlfriend's just like, what the fuck is that? Why is that even there? And I'm just like, that's awesome. Like, I fucking love that shit. And then there's just like weird fucked up rats and they get killed by a weird fucked up cat. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's awesome. And I also, I loved the, you know, it gives this really the dream stuff gives this cool opportunity to just do bizarre creative shit. And I love that the second movie just like doubles down, triples down on that.
I would say the first half where it was getting all like gay and shit, it made me a little uncomfortable. I don't know why, but the second half, like, you know, where it started showing more Freddy stuff, like I liked it a lot. And like, yeah, the prop work where like you can see Freddy's face, his eye in the mouth of what's the dude's name? The main character, I forget his name, but like in his throat, like stuff like that was mad cool. And like,
yeah, that rocks.
You know, a lot of that stuff, like my girl always like appreciates this. Is like back then, like Cronenberg, like this era where there's like a lot more prop work, and now it would just be like cheap CGI, and it just doesn't feel the same. Like, you know what I mean? It's completely different.
It looks great. The Suspiria, like colored lighting, all of that, red and green lighting that you see, especially in the coach sequence, looks really good. All the special effects moments really work. I love that miniature of the bus on top of that hell cave at the beginning.
Well, you just cut out a little bit for me.
This I always
you cut out a bit.
Thought was really good and
wait, you cut out a little bit, Jack. What was it? What do you say? The miniature what?
The miniature of the bus teetering on top of the cliff, the hell cliff thing at the beginning. I love that miniature work. But this has always been my favorite Nightmare movie, even more than the first one, because I think it's really clever how rather than just being an exterior villainous presence, Freddy manifests from the main character's mind. So they did something like experimental rather than just having him be a villain. So it's more like the Silent Hill games, where all of the horror is like, manifesting from these like morally strange main characters' minds. And I like specifically, of course, the linking of homosexuality with murder and disease and evil and this child molester.
It seems like a cautionary tale, really.
Yeah.
Don't be gay. Don't be gay, kids.
And this was immediately pre-AIDS. This was 85. Okay, it was later than I thought. So it was right when AIDS was like starting.
Oh, great timing.
Yeah. So homosexual desire being like a murderous thing was really a potent theme to explore at the time.
Well, it's also very interesting because like sexuality in horror is obviously really common, like a really common trait or trope. Sorry, and like and so to like have it be Freddy is coming out of the main character and instead of having like kind of this like pure like female lead, which is kind of the usual par for the course. It's a guy, and I mean maybe I'm reading into it like a little bit, but I kind of like, and it would certainly not get made today, but like that kind of like coming of age psychosexual horror thing when the lead is a main character, it's like it's manifesting like really violently. And I think that's kind of a funny way of like framing male sexuality a little bit. I kind of liked that. Like, it makes me think of like when I was watching the first movie, you can like, I had totally forgotten about the bait and switch with the main character. Right. Because the blonde broad killed. Right.
Yeah. That surprised me. Yeah. But
then the second you like see her sleeping with the guy, you're like, oh, this is probably not going to be the main character. Because you broke the golden rule of the horror lead, right?
Oh,
I think that the like in that all of that those sexual themes, like the second movie plays it in a genuinely novel way, which is also interesting because I think like these days like that stuff is almost like kind of cliche, but like in kind of a bloodless, boring, sanitized way. Like there's never sex in movies or anything like that anymore. But it's like, oh yeah, this is like genuinely novel, especially after like the first movie, which is like, like horse girl being tested, yada yada yada.
And a lot of the reason this works and is so unique and produces such discomfort in the audience, including me, is that not only do they switch the girl with a guy, but he's intensely feminine. Like the screams, which they directed him to do, are these comical, totally female screams. He's not like a strong, resourceful, like smart male character. Like if they did some like queer horror, franchise thing now, he would be totally like, not scared of anything and practical and resourceful and they don't want to be like indulging in stereotypes, but the fact that they have him shriek like that is just perfect.
Right.
And that Freddy is also acting as his homosexual recruiter like his pederastic recruiter.
That was the thing, man. He was like touching his hair, like combing his hair. He's like, "Oh, I want your body."
He was like, "You got the body, I got the brains."
I was like, "Yo, he's grooming him. He's Discord grooming him." Yeah,
and this is the classic
I think it was a good
image
angle.
of the homosexual as
like, what if Freddy was like operating through someone? Like that's a good like twist on the original movie. I know Wes Craven doesn't. I read I was watching that Wes Craven doesn't like the sequel or whatever. He said it made Freddy seem like less of like a threatening figure or whatever. But I didn't really get that feeling. I thought it was still kind of menacing, his character.
Wes Craven has done so much shit. I mean, like they always like in John Carpenter and Wes Craven or whatever, like will offer their opinions on subsequent entries in their franchises. But yeah, Wes Craven. Last House on the Left has always been my favorite Wes Craven one. So like the rape exploitation genre.
Right.
Last House on the Left is great. I would make girls watch that with me all the time when I was 15. Everybody loved it. Everybody loved the rape movie.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the house party scene in 2 is also just like really satisfying. The second movie does something does something that I like, which is weird these days because we don't get like really like sequels. It's like the soft reboot thing, right? And so you get kind of like a weird remake, reimagining sequel of things. Whereas this kind of does like the classic sequel thing of like, I think it better explores the concept that like the first movie puts forward. Sure. And then it kind of raises the stakes a little bit. And that first part, I like in the second movie, the reality that the main character is in and dreams in which Freddy can reach him become overlapped and blurred. And that's something that's totally left on the table in the first movie almost entirely. And that's really fucking cool. And then the second is just like raising the stakes, just the whole house party scene where like Freddy just like goes and terrorizes like 30 kids all at once.
A lot of runs out there.
Yeah. Like the second movie just like kind of consistently raises stakes. A lot.
Because it seemed very surreal because the first one, he's always like in an intimate setting. It's like in one person's dream. It's very one-on-one. It's very like sneaky. And this, he's just like running around a fucking pool party and everybody's freaking the fuck out. Like it was very like, it was jarring.
Yeah.
It's
like that, like dreams. I'm here, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Like that first movie, it's like, oh, we just got to the jail cell and like, oh, I guess he's been strangled by the blanket, but we just missed it. And in this one, it's like, no, fuck you, motherfucker.
Bitch.
Yeah, like your dad needs to get the shotgun out in the backyard.
Yeah, there's never like that element of like distrust really, like from like the main characters like surrounding peers or family. Like usually you'll have like the character that sees the thing first, and like half the movie is them trying to convince their parents or their friends or whatever they're not crazy. And that exists in the first one, like to a frustrating point, at least it's sometimes. And then the second one, it's just like, nah, shit just goes like off the charts real quick. Like the bird flies and explodes, and the dad's like, "You must have put a firecracker in this," but that's like the only thing that ever happens like that.
He's gaslighting him.
That's my single favorite like visual from this movie. Like fuck all of the practical effects and all of that. Like the scene where all of the family is just kind of lined up in frame together, and the dad's like holding them close as they're cowering in fear from this exploded finch.
Yeah, it's like their pet bird too. Like it's not even like it's some random like fowl from out in the wild. It's like it's this bird they know and they own, and yet they're just like so terrified of it.
Yeah, this bird was their friend.
Yeah.
That whole scene of the dad yelling at him it was to me the gay subtext I read was like, "Stop being gay, son. Stop being gay. You're not gay." That's the subtext. I don't know if that was meant, but like that's what
I feel like that's part of it. I feel like especially when he's like, that boy needs a methadone clinic.
Exactly. He needs a big kick in the butt and less dick in the butt, like that type of shit. Like.
Right, which is also like a very dated line in and of itself. Like methadone clinic, and then we transition right after that. Like, whoa.
Yeah. And he's telling him, he's pulling the Jordan Peterson. He's telling him he needs to clean his room.
Now.
Oh man,
his room with the Kate Bush poster. Yeah, the Kate Bush Lionheart poster. His hunky friend has a Lee Mall poster. Lee Mall, singer of the song "The Neverending Story."
Right.
Yo, that was so weird when he like tried to fuck the girl, and like the whole time they're like, "Wait, so you guys don't kiss? You guys don't do shit?" And then he's like trying to make out with her, and then Freddie interrupts it, and then he's like, "I'm gonna go visit my Chad friend." You know, he's shirtless in his bed. He's like, bro, I need to sleep with you tonight. Yeah. You need to sleep with me, bro.
Yeah, it's so direct about everything. Yeah. It's just not remotely subtextual. That's what's so interesting. And that gay bar, that's the same kind of like degenerate like 80s new wave sex pervert bar that's in like Brian De Palma's Body Double, where everybody has like the green sprayed hair and all of that. I just love that it's introduced without comment in this dreamlike manner, that he just starts sleepwalking to this gay bar and then gets taken back to the high school by the coach, who presumably is going to like do S&M stuff to him and then fuck him. And then the tables are turned because the main character has been successfully recruited by Freddy, and he like, symbolically fucks the coach himself.
Right.
So it's just all done without a lot of commentary and a lot of like fanfare, and I think it's really effective in that manner.
Yeah, it's just very matter of fact. It's very matter of fact. You were mentioning Scream earlier, and obviously, like I think that the first Scream movie doing the meta stuff is great. They obviously couldn't even keep that up into the fucking sequel because it like buckles under its own weight pretty quickly. But like just that like very earnest, matter of fact kind of way. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm a knuckle dragger here, but like I don't get that kind of like smarmy, self-aware tone from any part of this movie at all. That would be, like just what every Rian Johnson movie ever is, or things like that. Or I guess just everything is like that now. It is just like, he shows up to the bar and like that little offhanded comment about how the gym teacher goes there. Yeah, he just is there. Like the whole bar scene, like almost seems like Frank from Blue Velvet is gonna show up or something. Like it's just wild, and like everyone looks like Bebop and Rocksteady from Ninja Turtles. And
this does feel contiguous with the Blue Velvet universe, and I've always thought that. And Hope Lang, who plays Laura Dern's mother in Blue Velvet, is his mother in this.
Shit!
Yeah, she was a 50s actress that was in Peyton Place, one of my favorite movies. But yeah, this Blue Velvet was 86. This was 85.
Her agent is just like, you're just going to be in movies about male sexuality. That's just what you're going to be.
Yeah, you're just going to be in the background while boys are discovering that they're sadomasochistic perverts.
No, it's true. I was wondering, like, how did he end up at that bar? I was like, did I miss something? But he just kind of wandered there. And then the guy, he's in the leather chaps, the teacher, and he just kind of like slaps his arm. It wasn't much said. It was very weird.
One of y'all mentioned how everything is this reboot now, where there's no like continuity between sequels anymore. And I miss so much when franchises had that soap operatic kind of cheesy continuity, where even as the entries like go on and on and on, there's some connection via the characters to previous entries. And this one, they find Nancy's diary in the closet. A great example of the horror franchise cheesy continuity that I love is all the Jaws movies. How like by Jaws 3, it's like the kids from the original movie, and then Jaws 4. It's just the mother. Jaws 4 is one of my absolute favorites. But yeah, I just want to return to that. It's so exhausting having, in the span of like less than like 4 years, you'll have like 2 different like dark, edgy reboots of the same thing that abandons everything previously. And it's very cynical, very stupid.
It is very cynical. And I think one of the annoying things about it too is like, I think, I mean, I don't know if I could say this is the case for like all of them, but like one of the first thing that comes to mind is like the newer Star Wars movies. That's kind of like a pretty good example of like sequels, how they're done these days. And like, mixing in that like self-aware, self-satisfied kind of meta thing that just runs through everything. Like everything's trying to be Rick and Morty in some way or something. Like these movies are self-aware enough to then be like, we're going to deconstruct ourselves in some weird way. And like, I literally don't want that, right? Like the kind of the opposite of that is how they do it in Elm Street 2, where like, you know, first movie, our horse girl heroine dies in the end, right? And which is a great ending, by the way. Amazing ending.
Tripped me out. And I know it tripped COH out. I was like, what happened?
No, the very ending I hate, dude.
Oh, I love that shit.
The mom gets pulled in through the window and shit. Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck is that all about? I don't know. I don't care for that.
It was like he couldn't think of an ending and he's just like, all right, let's just do this. You know,
yeah.
That's what it felt like.
She does come back in the third one, so she's not actually dead.
Really? Okay, I don't recall that. Well, I'm going to dismiss that. You're lying, Jack. I like the way I interpret it because that's a better ending. In any case, they find her diary, right? And it's like building. It's kind of building this mythos, right? Like there's that dramatic irony going on of like, well, like we know the history of this, you know, this horror story and everything, kind of like how the mother did in the first movie. And it gives kind of I almost feel like maybe this is like Bugman-ish to put it this way, but like it gives the world a little bit more texture. It feels a little bit more richer. I like that. You know what I mean? It's less like the superficial thing of like, oh, 7 movies ago, Iron Man said this to some fucking retarded character you don't remember, and now he's in our animated crossover series. Like it's like,
well, especially like Deadpool. Like a lot of the jokes are like self-referential, breaking the fourth wall, and like a lot of these Marvel movies at the end they have to make a pitch for the next Marvel movie or the one that's like adjacent to it in the universe. That's right. Like, you know, along a similar track, whatever. So like it's so like self-aware that it's just kind of like you can't get lost in the movie because it's too much like. You know, it's too you know what I mean? Like you can't like,
you know what it kind of reminds me of? It makes me think of Jack was talking about like bringing up video games earlier. It makes me think of really cynical like free to play games where you're playing it and you're like, oh, this is like fun and everything. But the entire design of the game is like a drug dealer to basically just be like, oh, like I like this gameplay loop. And then I'll get about 3 hours in and then the grind will set in and then you've got me addicted to the game. And so I'm going to throw money at you. And and so a lot of these franchises, it's like, you're not interested in actually creating something for its own merit. It's like, you're trying to sell me like a fucking Loot Crate subscription.
Exactly. To get you to watch the next one. Yeah.
Whereas Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is like, hey, like, look at this guy's bare butt. We tied him to a shower head. which just is a quick side note too. I mentioned how the second movie like escalates fast in a way that the first movie doesn't. They move on from the gym teacher dying surprisingly quickly.
Oh, it's nothing. Yeah.
Like it looks like he was,
and his hands are bloody, and the girl is like, "Oh my god, are you all right?" Like, it's like she's not even phased.
He's like, "I killed this person." She's like, "No, you didn't, honey." Yeah.
I was like, "What?"
Speaking of Marvel movies, the only thing that's ever like appealed to me in theory about those is the interlocking mythology, the vastness of all of that. Unfortunately, the products themselves are just so tedious and unwatchable and like shrill and loud. But I have had people, you know, with as much as I talk about like being obsessed with soap operas that go on for 50 years, the like scope of the Marvel stuff and how like planned out it is kind of cool to me in theory. But the movies themselves that I have seen, especially the dreaded Deadpool, which I was very distressed when that came out. And like people said that was actually good, or that type of humor was that was like Comedy Central in the afternoon in like 20 years ago. I was like, you have to have never seen a movie before in your life to think that that's like clever, or that he's like making these little like cheeky like bisexual jokes or whatever. It was dreadful. It was dreadful.
It was genre bending, bro.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch Hancock, bro.
Return to tradition of superhero movies.
I forgot about that movie.
Those are just like Nightmare 2 they had a lot of freedom because they just didn't care so much about this product at the time. It wasn't like these were this beloved franchise of classics at the time. It was just kind of like a product that they put out. But the Marvel stuff and the Disney stuff is all so planned out and like hermetically sealed and focus grouped so that like nothing weird can ever occur that would compromise the profits of it. So and the whole, you know, when you see these like charts, these flow charts that the Marvel people put out for like, we're announcing phase 18, and it's like new escalating levels of diversity where it's like Asian cat girl, and it just keeps getting more and more like fringe minorities. It's crazy.
Oh, dude! Well, that's why I love their Asian movie that they released.
Like Shang Kai or some shit.
Ching Chong and the Chopsticks of Doom.
The Ching Chong and the Legend of the Chopsticks comes out, and
raving reviews.
Actually, it's fun. If you went and saw it in the theaters, it comes with a fortune cookie instead of an after the credits.
It's just market to like the next Marvel movie.
As soon as it comes out, though, I'm checking one of the two obligatory Fed Post boxes right now. If we either talk about Lib Pandemic once or China once, right before it comes out, CCP is just like, this shit just isn't coming out here. Fuck this shit. It gets completely snubbed by like half the market it's supposed to release to. And then that story comes out, and, you know, like any, you know, air quotes cancellation, it's always just more like reading the tea leaves a couple weeks after to see how like PR firms handle it. But like, you have like the lead, I guess, he got outed for saying homophobic stuff online, and so then all these so I have to like listen to my fucking retarded coworkers talking about like, oh my god, did you hear about this thing this person said? Like, oh, I don't know how to feel about this movie anymore. And it's like, well, they're just going to do damage control. But I kind of love to see them just kind of falling on their faces a little bit with it.
That must suck so much to have so little imagination that your like mental feed is just the latest homophobic tweet controversy over like the Mandalorian or someone Disney. It's really sad imagining being that person. But
oh my god, well that's like it makes me think of like Cloverfield, when Cloverfield first came out, and that was like, well, I guess I'm too young to really have remembered like Blair Witch or Ring coming out. Same, but the AR game that came along with Cloverfield, which I think probably surpassed those movies a little bit. Like Ring, they sent the VHS tapes to college campuses or whatever, right? But like I feel like the new AR marketing is to just have like stupid little news cycle stories that kind of run in that vein now. Yeah. I doubt that people in Disney are like, I want this guy to like, he said fag to somebody. Like, that's going to be really fun to get butts in seats or something. But like, I think it's all kind of part of a greater picture. And I think they just
riding the same tide.
Yeah, they just game like outrageous headline culture, and it's really boring, and it's really sad that this is like orbiting stuff that's like purporting to be art. But yeah, I guess it's
an essential part of the marketing of big budget movies now, and the most truly drawn out and cynical example of that set the precedent was the Lady Ghostbusters movie, which the controversy over that, it was literally like 2 years where every single headline was predictably male nerds are mad about Lady Ghostbusters because this is woke and terrible, which obviously that's true. And the movie itself was awful. And the movie itself always ends up being nothing. The movie is such an afterthought. Yes. And then the other people saying, oh, alt-right trolls are, spamming the reviews of Lady Ghostbusters. And this is why we have to censor everyone. And it went on and like, to the point that like Milo was involved. Like that was why Milo was deplatformed from Twitter, was because he got into the thing with Leslie Jones. It was a good like quarter of the 2010s was about that fucking Ghostbusters movie. And then it came out and just nobody remembers a single second of it. And it's not even like particularly bad. I like Melissa McCarthy, but
I remember one detail of that movie. I remember two details of that movie, which is Bill Murray making his cameo and just like, and that kind of being my final wake up of just being like, oh, Bill Murray is like kind of annoying. Mm-hmm. And then realizing that the bad guy in that movie was basically like a caricature of an incel, and just realizing like how cynical and like intentional all of that shit had really obviously been, because like it was written, it's a part of the fucking script. It was always part of the fucking script. Like that's the villain of the movie. Miserable thing.
I'm skeptical as soon as there's like a bunch of hype about a movie before it's even out. Like there's that much media commotion. Like I remember the last thing that reminds me of what you guys are talking about is Little Women from 2019. It's like, why won't men watch Little Women? Why don't they love this movie?
That's the worst movie I've ever seen. And
I don't want to get Jack started on this. On the misogyny.
But it is, and I'm a huge Little Women fan. I played Amy in an all male play of Little Women. But that was just
based.
And that was just totally incoherent, lazy Etsy mood board filmmaking. But it was all so astroturfed, like right along the line. Like, of course, she got the built-in acclaim because they have to give everyone affirmative action Oscar nominations and like fast-track woman directors to the highest echelons of critical praise. That movie was really bad. It was like a real experiment on like showing what happens when a woman does like casting that's totally free from like what anyone should realistically look like, what any character should look like. Because the whole family is like, they're all 32 years old. And then there's playing teenagers. And then there's Laura Dern, who's like their mother. And like it just makes no sense. It's like 4 32-year-olds who are all the same age being sisters. But it's like
Isn't Meryl Streep in that? Isn't Meryl Streep in it?
Yeah, she shows up for they wheel her out for a minute. Because everybody wants, they got to get all those women together.
Yeah, it's like girl boss. I think that Greta Gerwig is one of many kind of like psyop Hollywood people in the I mean, I guess that's redundant to say Hollywood psyop, but like these people that are just kind of like willed into existence outside of any actual material who's that broad who had the HBO show Issa Rae? She had the Insecure show. Insecure, that's not a real
Is
human
that one
being.
of those Dear White People shows?
Greta Gerwig. Exactly. Issa Rae, Greta Gerwig just was some broad that Noah Baumbach cheated on his wife with and was in one of his dog shit movies. What's another one? I feel like Aquafina is kind of straddling this line a little bit. And then
I get what you mean. Yeah, very AstroTurf feel. It's like very industry pushed. Like
and I had one more. Wakanda Forever. The guy, that guy.
Chadwick Boseman?
Thank you. Chadwick Boseman wasn't a real person. Like it was overnight. It was overnight, and then he's suddenly like people are acting like he's fucking like Meryl Streep or something. And Meryl Streep isn't even that great anymore. Like she's a meme now. She's like Meryl Streep is a simulacra of Meryl Streep. I don't know. I hate this shit.
Greta Gerwig, she's not like awful. Like she's an okay actress to me. At least she like had something to her credit before this, but they just decided we have to have female directors, female creators to wheel out as examples to give awards to. And in the same way that like the press is now monopolized by AOC reporting, and every day it's just what did AOC do, and every podcast is conservative or liberal is just turning into AOC recap. It's just because she's like an okay looking thin woman. That's like an okay looking thin woman will get tons of press in a world with heterosexual gays. Right. She's not like good looking enough to be threatening. It's, she's not like any kind of like bombshell. It's just, she's a thin woman. They give her movies to make.
She's got a big mouth. Like not like it like phrase wise, but like she just literally has a large mouth.
So if people are looking, but between the splotchy vitiligo body positivity models and Lizzo and all of this over here, and then they see like Greta Gerwig and AOC, like they're gonna go to the Greta Gerwig AOC.
Yeah, kind of normal looking people.
Yeah.
I think just as a side note, because I have to add it because I think I missed the biggest example. Ava DuVernay, probably
it was
the
early
biggest
on.
one.
I don't know who any of these people are.
I think she she defined the mold of it. Like she was willed into existence. She's a tulpa. She exists because people think. Yeah, exactly.
And the funny thing about her was when they invented her, they pretended like she had always existed. She has this like fake like replicant past of like. The way that they reported on her was always like as if she had this massive body of work. But they just bring her out to like be salty to like what Matt Damon or whatever the white man is in the room who's not up with the latest lingo, hasn't received the latest software update.
The patch update, the firmware upgrade.
The interesting thing about her is they gave her this passion project, this Wrinkle in Time adaptation.
Dog shit movie.
Which, I've always been a little curious because I have always been a huge fan of those books. Yeah. But it didn't, like, before it even came out, they knew it was a dog. And so the reporting, it was built into it that, like, this will be unpopular because white people in the audience are evil and do not appreciate the brilliant vision of Ava DuVernay. But, she was the first real, like, total AstroTurf hologram replicant, one of these that they invented.
Oh, yeah, totally. And it makes me think of, I think she was in marketing. I think that was what she did beforehand. And I think her first movie was 13, right? The prison reformation one. And so then that tied into like a Kanye thing of his whole like slavery was a choice thing. And like, just amazing, just amazing. And so now she's doing her own cape shit. And
they haven't given her a movie since 2018. That was A Wrinkle in Time. They are not happy with the results that she has yielded.
They are not. They are not. She's doing she's doing a New Gods DC movie with a guy, Tom King, who kind of took the comic industry by storm a few years ago, and he just writes comics where every story he writes is the same. It's just about like a middle-aged man being sad. He's like Charlie Kaufman. And so I'm sure that him working side by side with a strong black girl boss will be really great. Stuff. I'm sure that'll be some great stuff.
Has anyone ever like, I wonder if she's ever existed in person, if you could like touch her, or if your hand just goes through her. When you know.
Like Freddy Krueger through walls.
They should do a diverse reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street with Ava DuVernay as the Freddy Krueger.
It's just me falling against the wall and a face starts pushing out of my abdomen. And it's this black woman just like screaming.
Because she's so tired.
She's so tired.
Her like evil superpower is how tired she is.
Yeah. Holy shit. She's got narcolepsy.
Are they trying to make a don't fall asleep?
I don't even know how I missed that part.
Are they trying to make a black James Bond now? Black girl James Bond or something?
They've always been hinting at that. I don't. Yeah. Daniel Craig was already a girl James Bond. I don't. And I'm a huge James Bond fan, but even like before wokeness became such a like problem, I was like really turned away from the Daniel Craig James Bond because it was all like he's sensitive and he like feels guilty about killing people and like the opening credits of Casino Royale like didn't have naked girls. It had like playing cards, and I don't know. People have told me that some of the Daniel Craig ones are like really good. So when I finally buy that Blu-ray box set of all of them, I'll watch them. But I was always turned off, and my instincts have been proven correct because he's such a sniveling male feminist in the press.
I think Casino Royale good.
I like Casino Royale. I did, yeah.
Quantum of Solace is literally like a Bond movie about just like being depressed. Beta.
I hated that one, yo. I fell asleep during that movie. I was like, yo, I can't. I wanted to get out of there. I was like, my friend fell asleep during the movie, and I was like, yo, let's get the fuck out of here. And he's like, oh, maybe it'll get better, bro. And then he falls back asleep. I'm like, what the fuck?
You're like, obviously not, dude.
Yeah, and then Skyfall and Spectre kind of do a sort of similar thing. I think where he, at least Skyfall, where like, yeah, I think he like sustains a big injury. And so it's like a disempowered Bond. And so it's kind of, they're kind of miserable Bond films in a way.
He has a miserable presence. He's just no fun. Like I went to Bond movies because I wanted naked ladies and lesbians named Pussy Galore who get turned by James Bond's dick into straight women. And just the vibe of the opening credits. That's all I wanted. And when you take that away, it's like the Bond movies are just indecipherable. Like I can't imagine like watching them for like the plot. Like they go on and on.
You're right. I see what you mean. He could get sanitized because he was sort of like a toxic figure. He's just like a womanizer.
Oh yeah.
So of course if they got to clean that up, then what the fuck are we doing? Like,
now it's just some wrinkly old man that's like a fucking newt. Like he's just like off-putting.
Well, and then they're like, and they're coming hot off the heels of like 3 miserable Bond movies, and they're like, hey, we got the guy who did season 1 of True Detective to do your fun Bond movie, and it's like that's not like that's good, right? He has good work. That's not who I think of when I think of like someone to manage the tone of this like misogynist male fantasy character.
I need the Bond girl to betray him like every movie. Like predictably, she betrays him. Like that's what that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm expecting.
Which I will say, like, Casino Royale does very good.
Oh right, yeah.
Ava Green is, come on. But
that's the only one
I saw The Dreamers in the theater, and The Dreamers is where all those screen caps of her pussy and her boobs that get shared among Zoomers online that comes from that movie. So I saw that in the theater when I was 15, NC-17.
And I mean, so you basically got the highlight reel anyway. So you don't really need that.
But every new movies have been bad for so long, but I did actually see 2 new horror movies back-to-back weekends that were really, really good. The Night House and Malignant.
Yeah.
Did any of y'all see Malignant?
I started like 35 seconds of it, and I heard the intro music, and I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
No, I had 0 expectations for it, and it's really fun. A lot of the fun of it is that it's not dressed up in this A24 pretension. Like it still has like rubbery CGI, and it's still kind of like multiplex trashy, but it's totally a giallo. And it's, references like all the cool stuff people love, like Possession and Brian De Palma's Sisters and Basket Case. But it's just really effective and really free of really demonstrative woke programming.
Everything needs to be prestige television now. Everything needs to be prestige television. The movie poster definitely has like giallo kind of vibes going on. The only thing I really know about the movie, I actually don't even really know like what it's about. But I do know that all of the boring people that I know said that they really didn't like it.
Oh, that's a good sign.
That is a good sign. So I'm excited to watch it. But yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna probably give it a shot now. I like.
You were included in boring people, by the way.
I assume so. Yeah. I felt that. That was some shade coming my way. I didn't really like it.
Oh no.
But I like James Wan's. Like I like some of The Conjuring and I like Insidious and stuff. So I figure I might like this.
I absolutely love Saw. I love all the Saw movies.
Oh yeah, Saw's great.
Saw's great. Yeah, the last ones I seen were Lighthouse and The Witch. It was same guy. I like Lighthouse and I like The Witch.
Eggers.
It was pretty good. Yeah, Eggers. Yeah. I like those ones.
I rewatched The Lighthouse recently.
I avoided Lighthouse and still haven't seen it because somebody told me that there's farting in it, which
yeah.
But everybody is telling me that it's actually good. I wasn't huge on The Witch.
Gay.
It was okay. It was The Witch seemed like Antichrist, like kind of drained of what made everything is like Antichrist drained of what made Antichrist good. Like there's been a whole like 10 years of like Antichrist derivatives that are that are drained of the vision of Antichrist.
I think Von Trier one, right? I still haven't seen. Yeah, that's the one I haven't seen yet.
With Defoe's dick.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I like about The Witch is that I think it's just like straight up, just like reactionary. Like it's kind of a Shaggy Dog story where you're like, oh, hey, like, they think it's a witch. They think it's a witch in the woods, but they're stupid Puritans. And we know as modern audiences that they're probably wrong. And then it kind of leads you by the nose with those assumptions. And then, the kind of the Shaggy Dog thing by the end, the twist is that it just literally is. It's like Rosemary's Baby. Like, no, it just literally is the devil. It's a fucking witch. And that's what it is. And like you guys got it for your sins. And kind of like how we were talking about how matter of fact, like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is. The Witch does that to the nth degree, but it's fresh because it's assuming there's a cynical audience.
Right.
I feel like you would like it, but I'm not confident on your taste, certainly. But I did rewatch The Lighthouse recently, and I've seen that like 3 times now. That shit holds up. I really like that movie. I saw it on a plane, which I don't know, for some reason if I catch something on a plane, sometimes I like it more. I'm very like expectations based. If I have like low expectations, I'll usually walk away liking it. And I wasn't expecting anything, but it was really gay. It was really good, but some people say that Freudian slip there, but some people say that there's gay undertones in that movie, which I don't know if you think there's anything to that. For sure.
Yeah, I guess there is, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely there.
You want to plug yourself before you leave?
I am Jack. My podcast is The Perfume Nationalist, and it's on patreon.com/Perfume Nationalist. There are tons of free episodes to listen to sample on Libsyn and Apple Music, but to get the whole story, you have to subscribe.
Go listen, go subscribe. Thanks, man.
All right.
What's going on?
Absolutely, anytime.